Burgers, the foodstuff of the everyman. The non-vegetarian everyman anyway. Lumps of cow flank in a handy bun carry case. Great for lunch, dinner, or even in the early hours of the morning, before the crows and sparrows and the tits wake up to say a howdy-doody-doody-doo. Never for breakfast though. What are you, mad? For much of my formative existence, McDonald's was king. But where there wasn't a McDonald's, there was another American giant, that being Burger King. Oh, and Wimpy. But we've covered that before, and that didn't have the glittery panache of the American duo. Nowadays, you've got so many franchises. Coffee shops are their own subgenre, but you've got Subway, Taco Bell, Five Guys, Smashburger, German Doner Kebab, the list goes on. More and more keep pouring into the vacated shop fronts of yesteryear. And in the UK, Burger King, it now feels like a bit of an afterthought. But let's have a quick look at Burger King and its placement as one of the great franchise war also-rans, before we bite into Whopper Chase and break our teeth on its tape cassette. Youch! Burger King traces its origins back to Florida in 1953. It was previously known as Instaburger, named after a machine that cooked their products quicker than their rivals like McDonald's. When it faltered after brief success in 1959, that's the chain, not the machine, the company went under a restructuring and rebranding and became Burger King. 7 years later, the company was acquired by the Pillsbury Company. It could do with a few less burgers, the old doughboy there. Pillsbury had control of the company for the next 2 decades, with mixed success. They became the third largest franchise in the world in the 1970s behind Mackie D's and KFC. They tried all sorts to catch up with McDonald's, trying Pepsi-style attack ads on their competitors and broadening the options on the menu. They tried standardising the restaurant designs to make them more recognisable to travelling patrons and, of course, expanding from the US to other territories like Cuba, the UK, Australia and Spain. The first UK branch was opened on Coventry Street, central London in 1976, 2 years after the first McDonald's opened in London as well. Eventually, business stalled for both Pillsbury and Burger King, and they were swallowed up by British conglomerate Grand Metropolitan in 1989. They had larger success with the chain, aided and abetted to product tie-ins with the Walt Disney Company. It has continued to exchange ownership, and in the present day, BK has slipped to 6th with Subway, Starbucks and a Chinese ice cream and tea company called Mixu standing between them and their arch rivals McDonald's. And yes, I will quickly cover the Xbox games, as these are of course the games we most associate with Burger King. Developed by Blitz Arcade, a company founded by British gaming royalty the Oliver twins, these titles, Sneak King, Pocket Bike Racer and Big Bumpin', were Xbox 360 promotional games sold with US value meals in 2006. None of them were particularly good, but they were an interesting novelty, though I'd question the logic in having the Burger King mascot having to surprise and intimidate passers-by with his goods in order for them to eat them. What does that say about your burgers, son? They did pretty well, collectively ranking in the top 10 bestsellers of the year of 2006. But 2006 wasn't the first time Burger King encouraged people to get fat on their burgers using video games as some sort of kiddie lure. No sir, they had previously done it nearly 20 years before that, in 1987. Whopper Chase was that game, and if you're wondering why you've never heard of it before now, well that's because you're not middle-aged or Spanish. Yes, Whopper Chase was given exclusively to our Iberian cousins when they purchased the Whopper Meal in the late 1980s. The cassette was pretty unique in that it had the data of all 4 versions, Amstrad, MSX, Commodore 64 and Spectrum, on it. Logistically, this made sense, seeing as it was given out by a burger restaurant. Don't want anyone's mum going back saying, "My little Timmy is distraught, you have given me the wrong game, you bounder." Whopper Chase was developed and published by Erbe Software. Hope I said that right. Do apologise if I didn't. Who were the biggest Hispanic entertainment software publisher in the 80s and 90s. Erbe were the exclusive distributor of Nintendo, Ocean, Acclaim, Gremlin, LucasArts and other companies as well. Erbe became less required as the big companies started setting up offices worldwide during the 90s and 2000s, thus cutting out the middleman, which they were. They didn't actually develop a lot of games in-house, but Whopper Chase was definitely one, along with Conquistador. The story is madder than a Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease-ridden cattle. Allow me to read you the spiel verbatim. The year is 2025. Thanks to hard work and dedication, Burger King has created a Whopper that you don't need to go get. It will come to you. Of course, others want a Whopper, and some ingredients want to be an extra on a Whopper. But there is a hungry patron waiting, so you must soldier on. In this game, you are the Whopper. You must make your way to the right past all the obstacles to get to the hungry patron. Along the way, you must also gather the parts to the Burger King logo, so that the patron knows you're a real Whopper and not a knockoff. You must kill or avoid tomatoes and pickles that want to be on you, and dogs, slingshot kids and kitchen brutes that want to eat you. You can shoot shots of ketchup at beings, but beware, as the slingshot kid and kitchen brute can shoot or indeed throw knives. So, if this game is canon to real life, and thank Christ it isn't, Burger King are planning on genetically modifying a burger to gain sentience, to be proud of its creator, and also to be suicidal and also driven enough to murder human and other sentient genetically modified food as soon as 2025. I'm alright, thanks. I'll have the carrot sticks and hide under a duvet until 2026, when we as a society surely have realised the errors of our ways and ended this horror. Just keep using Just Eat or Uber Eats. Don't make the burgers sentient, please. So yes, in Whopper Chase you are indeed an affront to creation in a side-scrolling action title as you seek to complete your life's mission of throwing yourself down this fella's throat. Why he is hanging out on railway sidings is never really explained. It seems quite seedy if you ask me, nor does it tell us whether or not he eats or leaves the Converse that the burger seems to be wearing. You're absolutely besieged by wrong-uns from both sides of the screen, and you can evade them with a leap from your science abomination legs, or you can gob ketchup at them, which puts them on the ground. Graphically, it's pretty par for the course of your average budget title. The Commodore 64 version looks a bit grimy with its dull colours. It's kind of like a northern film, the Commodore 64 version, or a Werner Herzog telling of the game. The Amstrad one is bold and eye-searing, as you'd expect. It looks probably the best out of all of them. Then you've got the Specky one, which is riddled with a tribute clash, but has done some decent stuff with the sprites, to be fair. While the MSX one, like a lot of MSX games, is the Spectrum 1 again. There's a jaunty little tune that plays on most of the versions, which I did hum to myself for a bit, so I mean that's a plus. Just like the fellow advert game, yes, a real term apparently, Weetabix and the Titches, the game is light on content. There's less than 10 screens between you and the sacrificial altar of that fella's tongue. You can peg it straight to him and you'll probably make it, but then you won't have your Burger King ID logo. He's not going to just eat any old burger that can walk on its legs towards him in a kamikaze style, is he? So how do you complete the logo then? Well, you do it by slaughtering your opponents, and eventually part of the logo will be parachuted in by your late stage capitalist bastard clone master meat hawkers. You've proven yourself by killing children and dogs wearing lipstick. Well done, here is your badge of authenticity. Once you've laid down on the gullet of this man, that's it, you've completed your task. There's no second level where you play a turd or even another burger. You know, it would be a good idea to have a second level, you know, different punter, perhaps on a longer stage in a different locale. You know, or maybe even vertically scrolling levels, different enemies, I don't know, something a bit bigger. No, it just ends there. It's every bit as hollow and empty as the nutrient content of the meat that came with it. But doing this short task isn't easy still. The fellow ingredients, well, they're dispatched simply enough, as they just sort of wander towards their death as simply as you do. But the kid and the chef, well, they seem to be working in tandem, and they're bloody death-dealing ninjas. They'll assail you with knife and water pistol. It's very hard to avoid, especially when they're paired up together and they shoot at the same time, which they often do, which means you won't even be able to jump over the bullets. The knife and water pistol blasts are very quick, so you won't have a chance to dodge them, let alone run past the speedy swines. And not only that, the Spectrum one makes it doubly hard, because you've got to contend with that colour clash, and they just sort of blend in with the background. In all versions, the burger is pretty slow, as you'd expect from something that's just been born and is intending to kill itself. In fact, I'd say it's only marginally quicker than a normal Whopper. So your best bet is to act like a normal Whopper and stay absolutely stationary and just spit ketchup left and right until you get your badge of honour. And then try and peg it all the way to the patron who's waiting patiently there for his mobile dinner. And that is every bit as fun as it sounds, i.e. not very much. Another very good reason to do this is if you try to move between screens, there's a 70% chance that an enemy will spawn just as you're switching over to the next screen and kill you instantly. It's very infuriating. While Weetabix and the Titchies is similarly lacking in content, it wasn't quite as broken as this. It's hard to be too miserable about a game that's basically a computer version of a Happy Meal toy, and in a way, that's a good analogy. You wouldn't go out and buy a Whopper Meal toy, would you? Not on its own. They're a bit crap, but it's exciting when you get it free with a meal. Perhaps we should start comparing it not against a budget 8-bit game, but against its Whopper Meal toy counterparts from the 1980s. And in that respect, well, you're some lucky fellas, you Spanish guys. So, in short, there's no meat to it, but it's free. As free as the existentialist angst you'll get given that you're controlling a sentient suicidal Whopper. Unsurprisingly, due to its Spanish-only burger chain release, there's little in the way of UK reviews, so you'll just have to cope with this review from Micro Hobby and be done with it.
Whopper Chase es un simpático arcade en el que la habilidad no solo es necesaria sino imprescindible. Los gráficos y el movimiento de la hamburguesa y demás personajes son de lo más divertido que hemos visto, aunque quizá pequen de ser algo simples. Dificultad y, sobre todo, entretenimiento son las características fundamentais de este original y sabroso arcade.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Anyway, let's stick with the home micros after the Muppet March madness that we're going to be embarking on, and take a look at life in the LucasArts toy factory with Night Shift. A very weird license indeed. Like, subscribe, and thanks, bye.